Hi, everyone. We are just giving it another minute or so to see if anyone else is able to join. And then we will get this presentation started. This is the National Kidney Foundation in partnership with Mayo Clinic and Sanofi's Finding a Living Donor presentation. And we'll just give it a few more seconds. Looks like we've got over 100 people on right now, which is great. And then we'll get started with the meeting. All right, it is 4 past 4 o'clock, so I think we will go ahead and get started, and then anyone else is welcome to join. If you do happen to get kicked off, you can use the same link to get back on the call. We have a really exciting um, session for everyone today. So I have some amazing speakers from the Mayo Transplant Center, and we're very excited to bring all of this information to everyone that's on the call today, whether you're on dialysis or a family member on the wait list. This is going to be great information for you if you are looking for a transplant, and any caretakers, family, friends, anyone else that's on the call in relation to any of our amazing patients. We hope that you'll find this very useful as well. So my name is Savannah Lanza. I'm the CEO at the National Kidney Foundation of Florida. We've been actually doing this program with Mayo Clinic for several years. I want to say it's been about 5 years now, which is incredible. And we've had some wonderful patients throughout the years attend and find this incredibly valuable. And I just want to sincerely thank Mayo Clinic and the Transplant Center for doing this for us each year. You guys are incredible. So go ahead to the next slide, Julie. All right, so just some information while you guys are on Zoom. This is a webinar based presentation, so you will only be able to utilize the chat, which talks to everyone that's on the call. You can go ahead and try that out. Tell us where you're from. You can also use the Q&A button to type in questions for any one of our panelists who, if we have time, we'll go through that and try to answer those. Hopefully everyone can hear okay. If not, you may want to check your audio settings and make sure that those are, turned up all the way so that you can hear us throughout the call. But other than that, please utilize the chat or the Q&A to message us and to ask questions. There will be several question sections throughout the presentation as well. So we'll get to those questions, especially when we bring up our donor recipient pair so that they can answer the questions you guys might have. So go ahead to the next slides, Julie. And that's great. I saw in the chat someone's tuning in all the way from Hawaii. So awesome. Thanks for joining us. So at the National Kidney Foundation of Florida, this is our mission statement. We're pioneers of scientific research and innovation, focusing on the whole patient through the lens of kidney health, working to enhance lives through action, education, and accelerating change. And we will share our programs and resources at the end of this presentation. And we do encourage everyone to reach out to us with questions, as well as the team here at Mayo. We're here to help you, whether it's financial assistance or information, patient advocacy, or different ways to get involved, which we'll go over. So next slide, Julie. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Mayo Clinic, and Sanofi is also supporting this program this afternoon. All right, next slide. So we're going to go through several different sections of the presentation today. This program is so important because there is an urgent need for kidneys, and the waiting list for transplant, we all know, is very long. You probably already know that there are two treatments for kidney failure, dialysis and transplant. And kidney transplant generally offers much more freedom and better quality of life than dialysis. In general, living donation is the best option for patients who have kidney failure. But kidney patients, family members, and friends often don't know enough about living donation. And even when you do, you may be shy about asking someone to consider living donation. You may not know who to ask. You may not even know how to ask. Just by sharing your story, there is a chance that a living donor will come forward. So we're really here today to give everyone strategies for kidney patients, along with their family members and friends who want to spread the word about the need. And those family and friends on the call will learn how to be effective advocate for the kidney patient. Patients a lot of times may not feel comfortable using all the strategies themselves, but often family and friends are happy to spread the word. And I think you'll hear a little bit more about that from one of our recipient donor pairs. This is also allows the patient to focus, a lot on their health because they have a lot, going to dialysis 3 times a week or doing it at home. It's a big burden on the patient. So having additional support is great and allows the patient to focus on their health while the family and friends can advocate on behalf of the patient to help find that living donor. So there's also, like I said, going to be many resources from Mayo and the NKF at the end of this presentation. All right, so next slide. So today we'll be covering seven different topics to help you along your journey towards finding a living donor. First up are busting the myths and making sure you know all the facts about having a living donor transplant. Next, we'll cover how to write and share your story, as well as have advocates or friends and family help you share your story so that more people might hear about your need for a kidney. And lastly, you'll be able to build your own action plan and hear about helpful resources to guide you towards having a living donor come forward. And again, you'll have a chance to interact with us on the polls and by answering, or we'll be answering any questions that you may have along the way. All right, next slide. So this is just a very positive success story. This is a kidney patient, was a kidney patient, Jeff, who found a kidney donor after using the tools in this program. And obviously, he's very thankful to the NKF and partners for helping him develop the tools and resources along the way. All right, so at this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Attia, who's going to do a very fun interactive polling session, and I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Savannah. And I want to start by thanking the NKF for partnering with us to talk about living donation. So I'm going to start with some basic concepts. What is living donation? So living donation is exactly what it sounds like. It's someone who's healthy enough, who doesn't have any comorbidities, who has good kidney function, who wants to donate a kidney to another person who's suffering from kidney disease. So that donor, usually we used to, like, a common misconception is that the donor has to be a family member, right? Like it has to be a parent or a brother or a sister, but the donor can actually be anyone. So the donor can be a spouse, can be a partner, can even be someone completely unrelated, a friend, an acquaintance, even a stranger. So some people will go on to donate anonymously, or we call it non-directed donation. Those are donors who are altruistic, who want to donate to someone on the wait list who's suffering with kidney disease, who they may not have necessarily strong ties with. We now have a lot of research about living kidney donation, and we know a lot about outcomes of living donors. So now we know that a living donor can live a healthy life with just one kidney and has the same life expectancy after donation compared to any other healthy person. And what is really important to a lot of our patients is who's going to cover all of that? Who's going to cover the evaluation? Who's going to cover the testing, the surgery for the living donor? So it's important to know that all the medical costs are covered actually by the recipient's insurance, so not by the donor's insurance. And sometimes if there's complications after donation, then that's also covered by the recipient's insurance or sometimes even the transplant center. Next slide. Okay, so if we're trying to find a living donor or if we have a living donor, the process needs to start with the same way. And we do it just like with deceased donors. So first, the recipient, the person who's suffering from kidney disease, has to reach out to the transplant center and be evaluated for a kidney transplant to make sure that they are a good candidate for a kidney transplant. And then they have to be listed. So when we list them, they're listed for both the deceased donors and living donors. So the process starts in the same exact way. Okay, we're gonna do some fun poll questions now. Okay, first question. Did you know a living donor does not need to be directly related to a kidney patient to donate? And we're gonna launch the poll. Okay, and then I'm going to ask the second question so we can answer both. Did you know that to get a kidney from a living donor, you need to be evaluated by a transplant center, just like a deceased donor kidney? Okay, we'll give it some time. But I see a lot of yeses in the chat. Okay, good. Do you want to share the results? Good. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people knew that the donor doesn't have to be directly related to the recipient. And also 93% knew that the recipient has to be evaluated by a transplant center, just like for deceased donor kidney. Good. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so it's really important to know all the facts, right? Because if we're looking for a living donor, we want to make sure that we understand everything about living donation so that we can communicate to this donor all the facts and kind of clear away the misconceptions. So we're going to start with the first couple of strategies here in finding a living donor, which is busting the myth and knowing the facts. Okay, next slide. Go ahead. Okay. I'm just going to start with a few basic reminders, and Savannah already spoke about this. So there's two types of treatment for kidney disease. The first type of treatment, of course, is dialysis, whether that's hemodialysis or that's peritoneal dialysis. And then the second kind of treatment for kidney disease is, of course, a transplant. And a transplant can come from a deceased donor, that's someone who decides to generally donate their organs after their death, or a living donor, someone who, as we said, is alive and healthy and young and wants to share their kidney with someone suffering from kidney disease. We, of course, know that transplant is associated with a better quality of life compared to staying on dialysis, and also associated with better quantity of life. So the survival with transplant is much better than staying on dialysis. Next. Okay, we always talk about the physical burden of dialysis, right? We talk about the physical burden of kidney disease, but sometimes we also tend to forget the emotional burden, right, of kidney disease. So it's not uncommon for someone who has kidney disease to experience symptoms of depression or anxiety. And even 24% of patients with kidney disease have depression. And for those patients who are on dialysis, they're more likely to develop depression compared to patients who are not on dialysis. Next. So obviously, transplant is the best solution for that. And we have a multidisciplinary team, including transplant social workers, and they're trained to help kidney patients cope and work through these emotions so that they have the right support to have the best chances of being approved for a transplant. Okay, let's do some fun questions. We're going to do some true or false questions. Okay. We should go back to the questions. Okay, so I have two questions for you. Okay, true or false? Kidneys from living donors typically last longer than from deceased donors. Is that true or false? And then the second question is, you can get a kidney transplant before you have to start dialysis. Is that true or false? Let's give it a few minutes. Okay, lots of answers in the chat. Okay, good. So 92% said that kidneys from living donors typically last longer than from deceased donors. And that's absolutely true. We know that living donor kidneys, they tend to last about 15 to 20 years, whereas with deceased donor kidneys, they're a great option too, but they tend to last a bit less. So the average deceased donor kidney will last about 10, 15 years, whereas the living donor kidneys are going to last much longer than that. And that's something important that we bring up to all of our young patients, right? For those patients who are still young, who have a lot of life years ahead of them, we always counsel them that it's better to get a living donor kidney now because you need a kidney that's going to last a long, long time. And the second question, also 80% said that it's true that you can get a kidney transplant before you have to start dialysis. And that is absolutely true. So we call that a preemptive transplant, which is really the goal for everyone. So the goal for everyone, whenever kidney disease is getting to those stages where when the kidney functions less than 20%, ideally we want to start the transplant evaluation then so that we can get everything done as quickly as possible, identify living donors, and then have the transplant before the patient ever needs to go on dialysis. So the answer is true for both of them. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is just saying again, what we were just saying is that transplant definitely offers better health outcomes compared to staying on dialysis, and that kidneys from living donors, they work right away and they work for longer. So as we said, with deceased donor kidneys, it's 7 to 10 years. With living donor kidneys, it's 15 to 20 years. And we also know that living donor kidneys, as I said, start working right away. So they will get patients off of dialysis immediately. Whereas with deceased donor kidneys, sometimes if they spend a long time on ice, they could be a bit sleepy. So the patient may even need dialysis for about a couple of weeks after the transplant. Next slide. Okay, so what are some other benefits of living kidney donation? The first one is there's no wait time, right? As soon as we evaluate the recipient, we know that the recipient is a good candidate for transplant, and we evaluate the donor. There is no wait time associated with that. So we can schedule the transplant really at any point that is convenient for both the donor and the recipient. Whereas with deceased donors, we have to wait for the name of the recipient basically to get to the top of the list so that they can receive a transplant, which can be anywhere like between 3 and 5 years, right? So with living donors, we don't have to wait those 5 years on dialysis until we get a transplant. The other advantage is that we're basically removing that recipient from the wait list, right? We just said that the wait list is very long, and there's so many people with kidney disease waiting for a transplant. So if someone gets transplanted from a living donor, that will remove their name from the wait list, and that will shorten the wait list for other people. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, it's immediate relief. We know that they're going to work right away. Living donor kidneys, there's no need for dialysis. After the transplant, even the hospital stay is shorter with living donation compared to deceased donor kidney. So everything is kind of quicker and the kidney lasts longer with a living donor kidney compared to deceased donor kidneys. Next. Okay, let's do some more questions. I have two questions, and these questions now are about the donor, not the recipient. So the person giving the kidney. Okay, the first question is, a kidney donor is usually in pain for about 3 to 4 months after the surgery. Is that true or false? And I see some smiles there. And the second question is, a kidney donor will usually be in the hospital for about 1 to 2 nights after the surgery. Is that true or false? Let's see what you guys think. Okay, let's see. So 7% actually said that the kidney donor is in pain for about 3 to 4 months after surgery, which is definitely not true. And I'm going to have our amazing donors also speak about that in a minute as they share their experience. But usually, pain, like recovery after kidney donation, is similar to any other surgery. There's pain for the first few days. Obviously, donors will need some pain medications, but the pain doesn't, of course, last 3 to 4 months. It should last like about a couple of weeks. And we usually tell donors you need like 4 to 6 weeks to fully recover from your donation, but it's definitely not pain for 3 to 4 months. And then with regards to the second question, that is true that the donor will usually be in the hospital for 1 to 2 nights. Most of the time, it's just 1 night. 2 nights is exceptional, actually. So that the second question is true. Good. But we got it. Most of you got it right. Okay, next. Okay, so let's talk about recovery from living donation. So most living donors have laparoscopic surgery, which means it's tiny incisions. So it's not a big incision that's going to be made, and that's why they have faster recovery and they have less pain. As we said, they're going to be in the hospital for 1 night or 2 nights, and the full recovery will take 4 to 6 weeks. We give them pain medications, obviously some stool softeners after donation, but that's really it. And then there are some risks, just like with any surgery, there are some risks to living donation, which we share with all of our donors. Since it's a surgery, obviously there's a risk for bleeding, there's a risk of a hernia from the incision site. So we know about all of these risks and we actively monitor all of our donors for these complications. And if these complications do happen, and it's very rare that they happen, but sometimes they do, then we'll take care of it. Obviously, we'll bring them back. We'll make sure that they are doing fantastic. Okay, so let's do a question. Did you know that living donor kidneys typically last than deceased donor kidneys? Okay, I see a lot of yeses in the chat. Good. Okay, so 97% knew and 3% didn't know. Yes, that's what we just talked about, that kidneys from living donors do last longer than kidneys from deceased donor. Okay, next. Okay, more questions. Okay, can we launch the questions?
Yes, give me 1 second. I think I have to stop sharing the last one. There we go. Sorry about that.
Okay, you're
There you
good.
are.
Okay, so these are questions also about the kidney donor, not the recipient. And I have 4 questions this time. Okay, so the first question, a kidney donor will have to change their diet after donation. Is that true or false? So are there certain foods that the kidney donor cannot have after donation? What do you guys think? Second question, a kidney donor can no longer play sports or exercise after donation. Do you think that's true or false? Third question, a kidney donor cannot drink alcohol at all after donation. True or false? And then the fourth question, a female kidney donor can get pregnant after donation. Okay, let's see what you guys think. Okay, let's see. It looks like we have some more split answers this time. Okay, I'm going to start with the first question. A kidney donor will have to change their diet after donation. 83% said false, and that is the correct answer. So the kidney donor doesn't really have to like abstain from certain foods after donation. There's nothing specific that they cannot eat. We give them the general advice that we give to everyone. You have to be healthy. You have to eat the right foods. You don't want to gain a lot of weight. You don't want to eat like you don't want to get diabetes. You don't want to get high blood pressure. So you have to follow a healthy diet, which is the general recommendation for everyone. So there's nothing specific that they cannot have. So that one, it was false. Second question, a kidney donor can no longer play sports or exercise. Actually, we know that kidney donors like can do whatever they want. There's absolutely no restrictions to physical activity. Of course, in the first few weeks, as they're recovering, we tell them like not to carry anything too heavy or not to do any strenuous exercise. But then after that, they're really free to go back to their normal routine. We tell them to just like restart gradually, but there is nothing that they cannot do. We've had donors like climb mountains and do marathons. So there's absolutely nothing that a donor cannot do. Now, a kidney donor cannot drink alcohol after donation. And that is also a common misconception. Actually, kidney donors can still drink within reason, right? Like 1 glass or 2 glass. Drinking too much is not good for anyone, anyways, and especially like there's a risk of dehydration if someone drinks too much. So we tell the donors to just drink responsibly. That's it, but they can still drink even after donation. And then for the fourth question, a female kidney donor can get pregnant after donation, and that is absolutely true. So for our young donors, they ask us this question all the time, like, can I still have children after I donate my kidney? And the answer is yes. We usually ask the donors to like wait for 6 to 12 months after they donate their kidney before they try getting pregnant. And that's because there's some physiological changes with pregnancy that need some time basically to subside. And there's physiologic changes with kidney donation as well. So they can absolutely get pregnant, but they just have to wait like about a year after they donate their kidney. Next. Okay. So quality of life, as we have said over and over, is really equal to that of the average adult in donors. And then most of the donors will tell us, like, this is the best physical I've ever had in my life, right? Because we are very, very extensive and we do a lot of testing before we let anyone donate to make sure that they are going to be able to live a long and healthy life with just one kidney. So that evaluation is going to include a lot of tests. There's some tests for the heart, for the lungs, for the kidney function, obviously. So there's a lot of tests included in the evaluation to make sure that we are doing the right thing for our donor and for our recipients, obviously. And then we will follow up the donors after they donate. We will follow them up at 6 months and then at 1 year and then at 2 years to make sure that they are doing well. And as we said, like the living donors' medical expenses are paid for by the recipient's insurance, and that includes Medicare as well. Next. Okay, I think this is the last set of questions. Let's do it. Okay, so these questions are also about the donor. So the first question, a kidney donor cannot be older than 60 years. Is that true or false? Second question, a kidney donor must be about the same age as the recipient. And third question, a kidney donor does not need to be the same blood type as the recipient. Okay, let's see what you guys think. Okay, let's see what you said. So first, 14% answered that a kidney donor cannot be older than 60. And that's also a common misconception. A kidney donor can absolutely be older than 60. So there is no upper age limit for the donor. They just have to be healthy and in good shape and have sufficient kidney function to donate. So there is absolutely anyone can be evaluated for donation. We've had people donate who are like almost like in their 70s, almost pushing 80, as long as they're healthy overall and they can have the surgery and they have enough kidney function, then there is really no upper age limit to be a donor. For the second question, a kidney donor must be about the same age as the recipient. I think 99% of you guys got it right. So they don't have to be the same age, right? We have parents donating to their children. And we have a lot of studies that show that that age difference does not have to be, is not necessarily a bad thing. So the recipient will still keep their kidney for years and years to come. So they don't absolutely have to be the same age. And now the last one, a kidney donor doesn't need to be the same blood type as the recipient. I think that's like a common area for confusion for most of the recipients, but actually they don't have to be the same blood type. For example, a donor who is blood type O can donate to whoever they want. Or for example, if the donor is blood type A, they can donate to someone who's blood type A or blood type AB. Or sometimes even if someone is blood type A2, they can donate to someone who's blood type B. So they don't absolutely have to be of the same blood type. Next. Okay, so as we said, the donor has to be at least 18 years of age, but there is no set upper limit. Of course, every center is different, but as I said here at Mayo Clinic, there's no upper age for donation, so anyone can be evaluated. And then we have this rigorous evaluation to see if they are able to be donors. They don't need to be of similar age. And the really important thing here is to like not make any assumptions. Sometimes the recipients will assume that this person is too old or this person is not going to be a good donor because they do this and this. I just want to encourage everyone not to make any assumptions and to have the donors come forward to do the evaluation, and we'll let you know if that person is a good candidate. You would be surprised with some people who you would not think they are good donors, but they are actually excellent donors and they go on to donate. So don't make any assumptions, just call us and we'll do the evaluation. Okay, so what do we do if we find a potential living donor? So the first step is to have this donor contact the transplant center. So at any time after the recipient begins the evaluation, of course, the search for living donors should begin. And then we are happy to evaluate the donors. The donor has to contact the transplant center, so the recipient cannot contact the transplant center on behalf of the donor. Now, sometimes if the recipient is young, very straightforward, we can start evaluating the donor at the same time. We can actually evaluate two donors at the same time as we're evaluating the recipient. If the recipient is a bit older and the recipient has some other medical problems, we will wait until we are sure that this recipient is a good candidate for transplant, and then we'll start evaluating the living donors. Next. Okay, so did you know that living donors have the same life expectancy as people who are not donors? Okay, yes, 94% of new. That's good. That's very good. Excellent. Okay, yes, they have the same life expectancy, absolutely. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now I am going to turn it over to our amazing coordinator, Stephanie, so that she can walk us through paired exchange and what that means for our donors and for our recipients.
Thank you so much, Dr. Attia. My name's Stephanie. As Dr. Attia mentioned, I'm one of the living kidney donor coordinators. So I'm one of the nurses that works with the living donor team. And just a fun fact, I also am a kidney donor. So I donated my kidney about 2.5 years ago, and here I am living a full and healthy life. So paired exchange is really important because especially for our recipients that have blood type O, we know that can be a little bit trickier in terms of finding a donor with the same blood type. And then as a recipient, you should be getting information about your immune system and how specific it is. So you get some information about something called a PRA. So sometimes people are a little bit pickier. Their immune systems just aren't open to absolutely everybody, even when they have the same blood type. And in those cases, we do still have options to have someone donate on your behalf, even if they can't donate directly to you. So with paired exchange, if you are recipient one, we've got donor one who's come forward for whatever reason, they're not able to donate to you. So let's say it's your recipient is your daughter, the donor is a parent. You want to be able to donate, but you're not a match. So in that case, you can go into paired exchange, where we can look for potentially another set of people, another pair, donor and recipient that aren't compatible, and we essentially do a the old slip swap between the two people. I think that there should be another image that demonstrates this swap. Oh, right. So we've got donor recipient pairs that aren't a match. One more. Right. So, if you are trying to donate to your daughter, but you can't, somewhere there's a recipient that will be a perfect home for your kidney, and their donor could potentially be, move forward one more, a perfect match for your daughter. So you're just doing a swip swap. Now this is a bit of a simplified version of how this works. Sometimes it does involve more people. Sometimes everybody's not donating at the same time. But with this version of paired exchange we're discussing, which our delightful volunteers will talk a little bit more about, we're talking about you and a recipient, or a donor and a recipient, having surgery on the same day, even if that donor's kidney is going to go to someone else and you're going to ultimately receive your transplant from a different donor. So, how do we make this happen? Sometimes there are internal programs that are paired exchange programs. We at Mayo Clinic do partner with the National Kidney Registry, their paired exchange program, which does allow us to look across the country for potential matches for pairs. So just remember that whether someone's the same blood type as you or whether or not they're compatible, there is still an option for, if you have someone who's willing to donate on your behalf, for them to be able to do that even if they can't donate directly to you. So please, if you know anyone who might be interested, just refer them to us and we're going to talk about how to do that, and let us make the decision about whether or not they're actually eligible, because it never hurts to have someone ask the question, can I donate my kidney? All right. So we talked a little bit about this, but we've got a donor who's unable to donate to their intended recipient. We do discuss, the Living Donor team discusses the option of the paired exchange program through NKR. And then, as we mentioned, that donor will ultimately have their kidney go to someone else. The recipient who's matched with that donor will get a kidney from someone else. And you can see different transplant centers, what programs they participate in through the National Kidney Registry at the website listed here. All right. So it is a really personal decision to decide to donate a kidney, and culture and religion definitely may play into this. So there is a lot, generally speaking, a lot of support for this kind of generosity, but it's obviously not for everyone. We do really want to make sure that donors feel like they get a chance to kind of explore all sides of donation, good, bad, and different, because we want everybody to feel comfortable and confident with whatever decision they make about this process. So just know you've got faith leaders, family members, and of course your transplant team that's here to help you think through all that stuff. All right, so we've talked about the first two strategies, and we're going to move towards the third. We've got a poll question. Which fact surprised you the most about donation? Is it that living donor kidneys typically last longer, that donors can be older than age 60, that a donor doesn't have to have the same blood type as their intended recipient, that you can receive a kidney from someone who's not related to you, or that if someone donates to you, they can have children afterwards? All right, so a mix here, but it looks like the least common knowledge was that the donor doesn't have to have the matching blood type, and that's because of the option of paired donation. So thank you guys for that. All right, moving on to strategy 3. So I know most people are here to learn about actually finding a donor, and the toughest part about this is you do have to be willing to tell your story. So that's what we're here to talk about is how do you spread the word? How do you create your story? Go ahead. So there is this handy worksheet that the National Kidney Foundation has created to help you write your story that's called Starting My Story. And you can find this in the Finding a Living Donor handout booklet that was emailed to you. There's also some example of stories in that. And those can be kind of inspiration for you as you're thinking through how to tell your story. But important to just start by writing stuff down. Kind of do a brain dump. There's no right answers, and that initial thinking through how to craft your story, that's just going to be information for you to organize later on. You can kind of edit and decide what to include and what not to include as you get a little bit closer to finalizing your story. So really don't think about that initial step too much. Just write anything that comes to mind. And you can take a few minutes today, tomorrow, next few days to start filling out that worksheet. Um, if you are a kidney patient, you're going to be writing about yourself. If you're a care partner or someone involved in the care of someone who has kidney disease, you're going to be writing about the patient. But we also, it's powerful to write about how the disease impacts you too. Now, the best stuff. We're going to hear from a real life example. We've got our donor Kelly here and our recipient Shannon here to share a little bit about their journey and have Shannon talk a little bit about her story. They did participate in the paired exchange, which they're going to talk a little bit about. So, will you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
I'm Shannon Williams, and I had polycystic kidney disease for 10 years. And I've been a elementary teacher for 20 plus years. And I am in need. I was in need of a kidney really bad.
And I'm Kelly Harrington, and I'm Shannon's buddy. We've known each other since we were teenagers, and I'm the one who donated my kidney. So I'm not sure what all you guys need, but ask away. What would you like to know?
Yeah, Shannon, am so curious because I know only because of my exposure to your story that I know Kelly has shared she wasn't really aware that you were even sick initially. So, will you talk a
Right.
little bit about what it was like for you to share your story?
I really didn't share it very much because I was always for about 5 years now, they put me ahead and of my typical time that I would need to be on a transplant list because I've been going to Mayo for so long, just as like checkups and stuff, that we started the transplant process to be on the list before I really needed the kidney. And so I just kind of was just like, okay, well, I'll get a deceased kidney whenever it comes up. And I was literally on the list for about 5 years and didn't hear anything. And then it got to the point where my levels started falling really fast, and they were needing me to start to get my fistula to start dialysis, which was a huge, huge reality check for me that, okay, this is going to happen really, really soon.
Yeah, and can I add to her answer? She didn't want anybody to do it. When it comes to sharing your story, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, she knew that she was being told it needed to happen. She knew she wasn't feeling good, but she still didn't want anybody to do it. Anybody who talked about it, she tried to talk out of it. So it was a tough moment to get to that point of sharing her story and accepting that she was going to need some help and that there were people willing to do it.
Right.
Yeah. How did you initially kind of hear about Shannon and what her need was, Kelly?
I think it was just a Facebook post. Her daughter, Jordan, is going to be a teacher now too, and she was already interning and working at the school I was at. And so she posted about it, and I saw it one night, and then I started talking to her the next day. So I think really that conversation when I started asking really what's going on and what does this look like, because even during the process, when I decided to look into it, I mean, at first, honestly, I didn't even tell my husband or anybody when I was doing the initial like kind of information you fill out if I would be eligible to even go to the next step. So I talked to Jordan more as I went through that, and I didn't talk to Shannon honestly for months. But like I said, I was already a little bit aware that she was having trouble letting somebody help her to that degree. So it was social media, and it was her story, and it was pushing it out for people to see.
And we were both teachers, but at different schools. We teach at the same like district.
Yes.
And county, but we're at different schools. And my daughter was actually at her school, and I work at a different school. So she actually, when we started realizing, okay, this is a little serious, then my daughter made a, just threw it out on social media. She's a little more out there than I am, but decided to put a GoFundMe account. And I think that was what everybody was just like, wait, what? Kind of, didn't realize it was getting to this point. So it was, putting it out there, that awareness that I, again, really didn't talk about it because I really was like, oh, a deceased donor will come along and I'll just get that one. Because neither one of us really even considered the pair donation at the time.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had someone on your team who was helpful in getting your story out there because it wasn't something you were comfortable doing.
Yes,
I think
Shannon was very much in denial. So she had to depend on her loved ones to say, okay, we got to do this. So the people around her really stepped up to get that story out.
Yeah. How did you feel, Shannon, about your daughter making that post?
I know her, and I know that's what she does. And I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. You know what I mean? But, again, maybe a deceased donor will come out. But at this time, it's like 5 years. So I'm really like, okay, well, if you're going to do that and take on that task, then you take on that task kind of thing, and, we raised quite a bit of money, maybe like $3,000, but more importantly, it just gave that awareness for people to be like, oh, well, let me go get tested.
Yeah.
And so that's when it wasn't until that post that she had put out there that people were coming to me and going, hey, didn't realize it. Can I go get tested to see if I'm a match? And that's when we had people checking to see if they were matches for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy you were able to find a donor through this process. Kelly, when you found out you were approved but not a match, how was that experience for you?
I can't remember which one of you called. Some of my favorite people on earth are on this call right now. And I don't remember, I think it was you, Stephanie, but I might be wrong. Was it Jacqueline? Jacqueline's right. That was not my favorite phone call. We were so excited by the time you get to the point to hear if you're a match. So wait, let me back up first because you go through all this stuff. You decide you're going to do it. You kind of get in the running to be the next one tested because 2 people are in waiting or whatever. And then I go through a million tests, best tests I've ever had, physical ever. And then I'm told, hey, you can be a donor. So I got approved to be a donor. So we were like, okay, we're all in. This is it. And then we got the call I wasn't a match. And that was defeating. I don't know how else to say it. Very defeating. And I know, as some of you know our story, My family was very strongly, they were hesitant anyways. They were supporting what I was doing, but they said, if Shannon's not getting your kidney, no way. No way. So I was defeated at that moment because it was a big toss of how far in this are we? Are we going to keep going? Would we really turn back now? So that was a tough phone call when I realized I wasn't a match.
Well, and I actually, my husband's an RN at the hospital, at a hospital that, a local hospital. And he had come across a random nurse that is going through training. And he was kind of talking about my polycystic kidney disease and me needing a donor. And she randomly was like, hey, I'll donate. Do you have the information? And I get a little sticker from my husband. He brings it home. He goes, here, call this number. And I'm like, it's a woman. And I'm like, why are you giving me a woman's, phone number from work? And he was like, yeah, she might donate for you. And she went through the whole process, and she was a match till it came to the antibodies. And it was the antibodies that kept kicking all of my people that matched everything. My family members, they went through it and they were a match but something was with my antibodies that it wasn't connecting with anybody that was going the distance to connect with.
Yeah, that point deters. I feel like we've realized through this, that's the deterring part. And I get that because that was hard. That was a hard point for us to talk about paired share and what that really means.
Yeah, absolutely. Shannon or Kelly, do you guys have any advice for people who are kind of in various parts, various stages of the process of like trying to get their story out there, which,
Yes.
Shannon, I know you can identify with how hard that is. Like, do
It
you have
is.
advice for people?
Put your pride aside because if you are in need, and I'm telling you, those of you who have not got to the point with dialysis, do it before you get to the point of dialysis because it is not fun. I did the dialysis for probably, I started to get my fistula in January of 2 years ago. And I couldn't start my dialysis until August because I had to have 2 more because they never took. And then the one that took was not really developing correctly. So it was real particular. So it was really like plum torture.
Yeah.
And it really took a lot out of you every day because I continued to stay working full time and then go after work and sit for 3 hours. So like for me, oh my gosh, transplant was like amazing because I don't ever have to do dialysis again.
Yeah. I would say my biggest thing, and so in this process, something I did not expect is how many people need this. Like I heard Shannon's story and I thought it was rare. I had not talked to anybody. And then suddenly, especially because we're in the same community, there's a ton of people in our community. There's a ton of teachers who have spouses or other family members. So the biggest thing I have found myself saying 1,000 times lately is stop talking about if you're a match. Like that's not even a conversation anymore because it's just if you're able to donate. If you're willing to donate, you go through this amazing health screening and you're able to donate. Don't worry about the match. It doesn't matter your blood type. It doesn't matter. I don't know what antibodies are still. You all know that. I have no clue what that is. It doesn't matter any of that stuff, but you can still do it. And when I finally went past that turning point, now, just so everybody knows too, I'm in contact often. Actually, he messaged today and I haven't looked with the man who actually received my kidney. So it changed from being a scary thing to being a thing where we could help more people. And it was a bigger web of support. So if you're a match, it's just a non-conversation at this point. They can fix it. They can connect you with the right people. And Shannon still got a kidney. She may not have my kidney, but she got a kidney still because I did that. So that's okay.
And something that I wanted to kind of bring up that shocked me was I went from being on the deceased donor list for 5 years that nobody informed me of a whole lot of what was going on with Kelly and Mayo. I kind of was out of the loop, and Kelly kept me out of the loop because she didn't want,
because she kept saying no.
but
I kept her out of
she kept me out of the loop just so that I wouldn't be disappointed if something if it didn't come through. So it wasn't until November that Kelly was like, hey, everything's good. And Jacqueline contacted me and was like, I need you to sign this letter so that we can put you now on the living donor list, which switched from me being on a deceased for 5 years to a living donor.
Within a few months.
And I went, that was in November. In January, Jacqueline called and said, we got a match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've got somebody for you. Let's go. February was the day.
And my advice to the opposite side, because I know y'all hear me, I keep kidding about this, but those who need it, and I know you've been through so much and you're so humble and it's tough being this sick. Like I cannot even put myself in that place, but let your people help you. Don't tell people no, talk to them about it. Let people be open because it is as much of a blessing for me as it was for her. So let people help you.
Yeah.
That's
It was
so,
amazing.
so true.
It was amazing when I went back to work after the surgery. I came back and people were just like, "Oh my gosh, you look so different. You have color." And I'm just like, "What did I look like before?" Like what color was I before? And it was just they were just like, "You just look totally different." And it was just like, "Okay." And I feel like a totally different person, and the journey health-wise for us was like night and day. Kelly, she's in the best shape of her life.
Yeah, and I know you haven't asked that, and I'm sorry for talking too much, Stephanie, but I do want to put that plug in there. Everybody talks about the recipients and how much healthier they are. I've lost like 50 pounds because I went in healthy enough to donate my kidney, but I have switched my diet, not because I was told, but because it made me hyper focused on my health. So I eat more protein. I do not drink soda. I don't drink alcohol. I mean, I've had a glass of wine here or there, but I don't anymore. I drink all water. So because I'm more conscious of my health, I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life. So it helped me.
We've talked about like the medicine for a recipient. Some of the medicine can make you gain the weight and stuff like that. And so I'm here to encourage that. I've lost about 20 pounds since.
See, we're both healthier.
I know, right? And so
Awesome.
it's kind of made a mental spin with me too. So, when we say change your life, it changes your life.
Kelly, someone had asked in the chat how long the evaluation process took. Do you remember kind of from start to finish?
I do remember because I started because I was interested in December. I tried starting January and she already had 2 people in. So it was like spring, like March or April when they called and said, this is what it's going to start looking like. Let's start doing the test. And oh my God, the 24-hour urine samples. I mean, you will survive them, but they're not fun. But that's when the process is started kind of from a distance. And then in July, so we're talking like April, May, June, like going through some different tests, going through a lot of, that time looked like a lot of telephone calls. So I had like calls from a social worker and calls from the psychologist, I think, and calls from the nurses and all of those things to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind and whatnot to be there. And the test from a distance. And then in July is when I went to Mayo for like a 2 or 3 day period and did a whole bunch of tests in person. And then after that, it was just kind of follow-up calls, no more tests. And then we found out in like August, September. So April to like August, September. It was the whole process after I was finally in.
Okay. Awesome. And that's very donor driven because we always want it to be maximally convenient for our very generous volunteers.
And you guys were, and y'all know I'm a huge Mayo fan. I scream that from a mountaintop. Everybody is very focused on, I mean, everybody worked around my schedule. Everybody made sure it was convenient for me and made it work and did tests from a distance and did tests in person and all of the things.
And we're about 2.5 hours away from Mayo. So for us, so accommodating with even like being the recipient. A lot of the stuff I do is through virtual. I talk with doctors over virtual. I do my labs local and send it, and very accommodating. And even when you're like, oh, I got to go up to Mayo for all of these tests, they schedule it all in one, all in how many ever days you need it done in, and limit the time that you have to be away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing some of your story. I know there's going to be a lot more questions for you if you're open to answering. So I want to highlight a couple of things that I think are really important that you mentioned. One, Kelly and Shannon both touched on the importance of of letting people help you. And sometimes it means people can donate their kidney, and sometimes it means people can support you in other ways, like posting a GoFundMe. Not everyone may be the kidney donor, but there are a lot of opportunities for people to help. And it really is a genuine gift for those loved ones around you to be able to provide that sort of support, because we've all been in the position of feeling just helpless when our loved ones are going through it. So any way they can help you, they really are interested in doing that. So be sure to make those asks. Um, and then I think if as you're sharing your story, make sure to tell them how they can connect with us, because Shannon and Kelly both mentioned we do keep these processes separate: recipient evaluation and donor evaluation. That's on purpose because we do want to make sure donors have the space they need to make the decision about donating without the emotional roller coaster for both parties. Because if you are a recipient, the waiting, the potentially the quote unquote dry runs where you get called in and the transplant doesn't happen, that stuff takes a toll. And donors really want to preserve their loved ones' mental health as much as their own. So yeah, open to hearing anything else that people found helpful about the story that was shared, and what made the story compelling. So please feel free to share that stuff in the chat. All right. And I think we can move on.
All
So
right.
yes, go, Dr. Mao.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm Shannon Mao, and I'm the surgical director for Living Donation at Mayo Clinic, Florida. So that means that I am one of our donor surgeons and do this wonderful operation and get to meet with and work with so many incredible donors. I also am a recipient surgeon, so I do the recipient side of the operation as well. And just wanted to, before we go on, there was one question to answer live from our Q&A about the paired donation process and whether it occurs on the same day. And just to clarify, there are really two ways through our paired exchange program that it can happen. You can either go in and say that you would like the surgery to happen on the same day as your recipient, or that you would prefer to donate in advance and provide a voucher for a recipient to get a kidney at any time. And actually, with our next donor pair, you'll hear a little bit more about the voucher program, but there are options for living donors to be on the same day as the recipient or separated by a period of time. All right, and then let's move on to talk about really the next step and strategies. So we've talked about creating and sharing and spreading the word about donation. So let's go on and talk a little bit further. So really, and our donor pair already shared this, but really the key to finding a donor is to get that story out there and to start telling your story to people you know and people that you are comfortable with, and then work your way further out into the circle. And if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, this is an excellent opportunity to ask your friends and family members and to allow them to share that story. I think it's so powerful to hear that, her daughter was the person that really got that story out there and found the donor. So for all of the donors and support folks here in the audience, think about how you may help your recipient tell that story. Next slide. And again, we know that many people want to remain private. They don't want to share that they're sick. However, if someone doesn't know that you're sick, they can't help you. And so telling that story is the only way for someone to come forward and be an incredible donor on your behalf. Next. And this really shows the circle of influence, and this will be in your participant booklet. But you as the kidney recipient make up that middle of the circle. The inner circle, your close family and friends, these are the people that maybe you're comfortable sharing your story with or that you talk about and know you're sick. And these people can help you broaden that circle of influence into that outer circle. And this might be sharing with people through your school group or alumni group, through social media, perhaps through somewhere where you would worship or participate in sports with. This is also a great spot. Your coworkers, people maybe you see every day, but that don't know the inner circle and don't know the struggle that you're having. And sort of over on the side, we also have general media campaigns. People have successfully used campaigns like this. However, it tends to be a bit more costly and not necessarily as effective as some of the other methods that you can do to get your story out more broadly. Next slide. All right. And so now we have the opportunity to hear from another incredible donor and recipient pair. And Gina Marie is a voucher donor on behalf of her daughter, Sydney. So I'm going to have Gina Marie and Sydney introduce themselves, share a little bit about their journey, and then we'll talk a bit about voucher program.
Hey
Gina Marie,
there.
do you want to start? Perfect.
Sure. Sydney is at work, but she is on, so we'll tag team. I'm Gina Marie, and one of the first questions about can you donate over 60? I was sitting with my daughter during her fistula experience a year ago, 2 years ago. Wow. And I said to the doctor, I said, well, I just wish I wasn't this old. I was 62 years old. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, or she said, said, what do you mean you can't donate us? Well, I'm old. And no, not at all. And I will tell you, within 1 month, y'all, 1 month, they got me cleared. I am as healthy now. And like Shannon and Kelly, is that right, Kelly? I'm healthier now than I was, I think, before I even went in. And I'm on the gurney. I'm ready to go. I'm so excited for my daughter. The fistula, the dialysis, the periocentesis is a lifelong illness for my 26-year-old at the time, 27, with Mayo's experience. And you find the strength, you find the endurance, and you 100% do not question. The psychologist that everyone just said to me, and Sydney, by the way, Shannon, I get you, because my daughter said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. My family, they're like, I don't think so. And I don't listen. I'm an Italian mom, there you go. I like it. And so, I mean, I was so excited to get tested that it was ridiculous. Like, Sydney is shaking her head, Mom, we're doing it. And within 4 weeks, y'all, they got me done and in that hospital. And the voucher program is what got me to absolutely take a deep breath. And on that bed, before I'm going in, the anesthesiologist looks over at me and he's reading my chart, and my daughter's in the room, and Sydney, they let her come in with me, which was beautiful. And she holds my hand and she says, Mom, I know how scary this is. I've been on that side so many times, but just take a deep breath. And I looked up at her and I start kind of chuckling and I said, do you see that monitor? What's my blood pressure? What's my pulse ox saying? I am ready to go. 0. You guys, it was a 4-week. I was 62 years old. And it was a process for me a little bit, but only because I wouldn't put the vacuum away and my daughter had to keep yelling at me. Yeah, but honestly, what a gift to my life it has been to do something for not just my child, but a stranger who I have no idea who they are, a girl, a boy, how old. We haven't had the pleasure of connecting yet. I hope we do, but Sydney, I know you're in there somewhere. The night before, when I did the voucher, it was time for me to donate. It was July 17th of last year. And the night before, we got a letter in the mail that, after a bunch of phone calls, but this letter said that Sydney had a 0.34% chance of ever getting a kidney, even with my voucher. that
Yes.
there's just her antibodies. She'll tell you a story about our first go round. But the likelihood was insane, less than 0.5%. And they said, you do not have to do this. You do not have to go through with this donation. And I mean, I just looked at my family and on the phone, I'm like, are you kidding? Do you think that I would turn down giving this gift to someone who's waiting with their family like I am right now? And I say, oops, sorry, it's not going, my daughter's not gonna, get a kidney now because they say she can't. Absolutely not. And it's just, guys, if you're thinking of donating, it's wonderful if it can be for someone you love and know, but everyone's deserving of another chance. Everyone on this planet, if you're healthy enough, give your spare, man, just give your spare. Sydney, that night, we had our talk and we had our time. And the next morning, she drives me to the hospital. I was driving. She made me get out of the driver's on Butler Boulevard. She made me pull over and she was going to drive me. I'm like, okay, it's before the surgery, right, Sid? So we get there, we get me all settled in, and her nerves for me were what you would expect. But sorry, you guys, I get emotional. Within 4 weeks of that, now it took me 4 weeks to get cleared, start to finish. Surgery 3 weeks after that, we picked 3 weeks. And then 4 weeks to the day, we get a phone call at 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night saying, we've got a kidney for you. And we thought it was my voucher program. We thought a miracle a miracle did fall from heaven, but we thought, oh, no way. So we get her to the hospital. The very next day, we are in there, and I get a phone call from my nurse, Turin, fabulous human, along with everyone else. And he says, okay, Jeannie Marie, we've got to get her ready for the live donor list. We're going to finish her bio. And I'm like, Turin, what are you talking about? He's like, well, we have to get her ready. I'm like, she's in surgery right now getting a kidney. And he just, wait, what? We hung up so he could call everyone and find out what was going on. A cadaver kidney, just this miracle of a kidney, showed up 4 a.m. that morning. They said, okay, we're good to go, because there was still a chance with a negative and a positive. And Turin looked at me, or said to me on the phone, he said, Jeannie Marie, I hope this doesn't make you feel less for your donation, for your voucher, because I go, are you kidding me? This is truly remarkable. So what you're telling me is she just got this blessing and she still has my voucher? And he said, yes, ma'am. So I could be gone from this earth in 20 years. And my daughter has this voucher and she's going to receive life again. I mean, there's nothing better. It doesn't get better. So Sydney, I know. Nah. Go, unless you have questions for me, Stephanie.
And Sydney, do you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Of course. So I was actually born with multiple urological abnormalities, 2 bladders, 4 ureters. I lost my right kidney before the age of 2. So my whole life, I had CKD, and I also have a solitary, dysplastic, dysfunctional kidney as well. So ever since I was very young, born, I knew at one point I would need a kidney transplant. So throughout my whole childhood, it was in and out of hospitals, a lot of prevention. And one day, everything went from stage 3 to almost the beginning, stage 2 to a stage 4 in less than 12 days in the hospital. And almost immediately they were like, you need a kidney. And this was with Tampa General. So we started the whole process there. And the second I got approved after all the testing, my older sister, Taylor, actually donated. She applied, didn't tell me, didn't really tell anyone until she got approved as a match for me. So I did not need dialysis yet. It was all preventative. And with the statistics, the kidney did end up rejecting, but she still says to this day she's so happy because there were a lot of moments in my life I was able to live during that time. So many things she gave me a gift of, and I still think I cannot thank her enough to this day. And when that one rejected, I immediately had to get emergency apport for dialysis. So I was on that for a while, and I now have my fistula, and I show it off nice, proud, and strong because it kept me alive. And I was on dialysis for a while, and due to having a previous transplant, I had over 12 blood transfusions. My antibody count was very high. So eventually, when they called and told me that I had a 0.36 chance of getting a kidney, that it would take about 12 years, I was heartbroken. Usually I'm very good at keeping it together, did my very best. I actually it was the day they called me, I got approved for the transplant at Mayo Clinic, but they were like, here's the news, just so you can be realistic and understand we're going to try our best, but this is what you have going. You're most likely going to be waiting a very long time. And that night I still had band practice because I sing in a band for fun on the weekends, and they were all over. And it was maybe 10 hours later, not even, I kept getting an unknown call on my phone. I was like, oh, I'm a little busy right now. And by the third one, I answered, and they offered me a kidney. And they said, we will call you by 11 p.m. tomorrow night in case something happens, but this kidney is yours. Are you willing to accept it? And it was, I remember I usually, because it's been my whole life, I don't like to tell people whenever I'm sad or share those kind of emotions, but it was one of the first times I was singing and I was texting my twin, I was really upset. I was like, wow. And then less than 30 minutes later, I get that call. And the next day I still went and sang for about 4 hours. My mom was holding my phone and I'm just staring at her the whole time, waiting to see if they're going to call me and say it's yours. And they did. And I remember I could not believe it.
Your
And
twin almost knocked you to the ground.
and a lot of friends and family were at that one. And we got to that hospital and like straight to Mayo, and I still could not believe it that less than 48 hours after I got told news like that, which is such a lucky story. It gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. It is such an honor to be able to say I had a situation like that. And I woke up with a kidney, and with deceased donors, like we said earlier, sometimes they can be sleepy. Mine went right up to work because I had 0% kidney function on dialysis. So I was producing no urine at all, 0%. And when I woke up, there was already urine producing. And so far, this kidney is doing great. It's going to be a year on the 14th, actually.
Yeah.
And I am in the national average range, slightly above. And even with everything going on, and now I'm back at work, and I actually work for a nonprofit. We do poetry therapy for at-risk and incarcerated youth. So now I'm healthy enough to be back at work. I'm back to singing. I'm back to living my life. And I just traveled for the first time out of the country in so long. There's so many things I missed, and my whole entire life is back because my mother decided to do this wonderful gift. And the fact that in the future, with deceased donors, this woman who gave me such a wonderful gift, they don't last as long. And the fact they still have a voucher, it's such a unimaginable gift that my mother has given me. And I'm still in contact with my donor's daughter as well. And I give her little updates of what I'm doing. But I'm seeing sometimes videos of me singing because she's told me like her mother's favorite songs. We'll learn those and I send them over. And just the way this program works, when you really think it's almost impossible, which is why she did it before, just to give me a fighting chance. And I happened to get one. And I feel so honored to like be here and share such a story and show the power of what having a new kidney can do and just how altruistic it is and to give such a gift and the impact it makes on not just your life, but your loved ones. My mother was my caretaker throughout my whole life and throughout my transplants. And then I was able to be hers, even though I was a much better patient because she was stubborn and wanted to do things.
She's
But
mean. She's tough.
sorry, I didn't want you pushing cabinets and vacuuming the floors. But still, it's such a connection and it's something
Yes,
you
it is.
truly cannot explain. It's so hard once you have that type of connection and that love, it just changes your life.
Thank you, baby. This whole family dedicated their bodies and their support to her. To have my oldest daughter, I mean, she like that, guys, like, oh, I'm gonna try. And instantly, I mean, it's just a remarkable, beautiful thing that you say you're bound by blood. We're bound. We are the three kidney sisters is what I got. We each got one now. So together we just we're the dynamic trio. It's awesome, you guys, truly to be able to do this, to hear my daughter speak so eloquently and what she's got to give this world wouldn't be possible for you to experience without her being healthy and this miraculous story to have unfolded like it did. I am just a firm believer, and please forgive me if it's overstepping, but God definitely had a hand in this, and we're just blessed. We're a great normal family. I have 5 beautiful kids. Sydney was a triplet, actually, and Savannah, her sister, died in utero at 7 months with the 2 bladders, 4 ureters, no urethra, no urethra seals, reflux, deflux, like you name it. And we donated Savannah to science to find out what was going on with Sydney. It's just so rare. So
Yes.
it's
And
the
I've-
whole family has dedicated something to Sydney, even her triplet. So
Yes, because
thank
I've
you
had
for
about
listening.
19, yeah, because I've had about last part, I've had about 19 surgeries since before the transplant for upkeep, prevention, and
Vesicostomies, stomas.
yes, defluxers and a lot of bladder reconstructions, but they all cared for me throughout it all and they continued to clearly. And now I am where I am and I couldn't be happier.
Because you rock.
What a wonderful story. And I think, one of the big things just really to emphasize is also there's someone out there that's already benefiting from Gina Marie's gift. There's someone in the world that is sharing this same incredible story, and whatever their passion may be, whether it's singing or dancing or running marathons, they're doing all of that too. And in the future, should Sydney, she's a young lady, need another kidney, she has this opportunity. And as you so eloquently said, even if you're gone from this world, you have given a gift that will last your daughter long beyond your time here. So I think that's just an incredible story to tell also.
Thank you. Thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely. I'm just checking the chat here. Any other questions that anyone wants to ask specifically of either of our donor and recipient pairs? I think they've just both told us really what the power of donation can be. So I want to offer the floor. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. All right, well, we'll give one more opportunity for them to come back at the end, but we'll keep working through the slides here now. So really ways to tell their story. I think what's most important is just getting it out there. And we have a list here of opportunities and options that you can use to tell this story, but I think it's most important to really personalize it for yourself. So maybe you're someone that wants to talk individually. on a call. I had a donor pair once that arranged a virtual chat. They felt more comfortable telling the story all at once. So they got a Zoom together of all of their family and friends, and they just told their story there and said, let's share these things out. An email, a mass email to colleagues, friends, and family, or a social media post is another good way just to say, hey, I'm in need of a kidney. You can find out more information here with a link to a website. Virtual groups or community groups are another great way. Some more sort of out there ways, things like chalking your car or sharing a bumper sticker. I've seen bumper stickers, needing a kidney. Another one of my incredible recipients found their living donor by wearing a t-shirt to Disney that said, Daddy needs a kidney. People, you never know what you might find there, but people are in their best frame of mind when they're traveling and at Disneyland or Disney World, and they just found that story and found it so powerful. Again, video stories on YouTube, yard signs are all different out of the box ways to think about sharing that story with your community. Next slide. So again, I think you've heard a lot of different ways to find donor and recipient pairs. So for the audience, just think about what is your circle of influence? Who are people that you can share your story with who may even tell that story further? Is that a person, a family member, a friend, a coworker, a colleague? Maybe someone you haven't talked to in a while. And think about who can really advocate, and especially for our family and support members, how can you advocate for your potential recipient? Again, I love telling the story of a recipient of mine who wasn't truly into social media, but their niece, who really wanted to help, had a background in that type of sharing. And so they developed an entire web page to tell the story for their uncle, who had never been on a computer in his life. He prided himself that he didn't actually know how to turn it on. So I think those are, again, ways to help support. Next slide. And so I encourage all of you to take this poll and really think about what actions you're going to do next. Are you going to do your sharing through talking to family and friends, sending an email, posting it on social media? Maybe perhaps you're going to share with an entire group of people or at a neighborhood or community event, maybe the barbershop or the salon or some other option. Do we have a poll for this one?
We do not have a poll for this one.
Okay, no problem. We'll go ahead and think about what you may do there. Move to our next slide. So now we've really talked about busting the myths of donation, facts about kidney donation and creating the story, how to build your network and spread the word. Next. Now we're going to talk about creating your own action plan and what you're going to do. And this is where I hope you'll look into your packets. Next slide. Next slide. And there is in your participation booklet, there is a commitment to what you're going to do next. And we really set up the steps that we think are opportunities for you to share that story, get it out, and find potential donors. And here in this packet, you can really say, who would I want to do by myself? And where do I need to find someone? And who might that someone be to help me do these different steps? You don't have to do this all on your own. You have people around you and within that inner circle who are there to help you. Next slide. All right, and next I'll turn it over to our living donor advocate and our social work team to introduce themselves and share about many of the resources we have for living donation.
So I'm Jen Whittemore. I'm our living donor social worker. And so we want everyone to know that it can be overwhelming at first to think about taking time off of work for recovering from surgery or traveling to our center for evaluation. And there are resources out there that can help you with that. The National Living Donor Assistance Center can help you. It is based on the recipient's income currently. You have to be within 350% of the poverty limit to qualify. But it is changing September 1st to the donor's income, which is going to be a huge improvement. And then you'll have to be within 500% of the poverty level to qualify. And they can cover lost wages for living donation for 4 weeks. They can cover dependent care, child or elderly care, and for hotel and lodging. And then if you qualify, they give you a preloaded debit card with the money on it, and you kind of let them know as you have appointments. I will be your social worker and I guide all donors through this program. And then I'm going to turn it over to Candace to talk about the NKR resources.
Hi, I'm Candace. I'm the living donor advocate for our team. And this page you're looking at now, this is actually what the website looks like for the National Kidney Registry. So they also offer resources. As you can see, there's quite a few resources that they do offer. When you go to the website, you can click on each one, but we'll go to the next slide and I'll give you a few more details. So what the registry will offer you is, first of all, lost wage support. So some donors don't have, the paid leave to take off sometimes to donate. So this program can be helpful in providing that lost wage support. And as Jen mentioned, she is the social worker on our team, so she'll be the one to guide you through that process. Now, they also offer donor expense reimbursement. So expenses related to the evaluation as well as the donation, such as travel and covering the cost of childcare, dependent adult care, and also pet care. There's also kidney prioritization. If your donor donates through the paired exchange program and in the small chance they need a kidney in the future, they'll be given priority for a living donor kidney through the National Kidney Registry. And then there's the voucher program. So I know Dr. Mao mentioned this a little bit, but if your donor has children or someone in their family or even a friend that may need a kidney transplant in the future, and your donor is currently healthy and wanting to donate now or in the near future, they can be able to donate to someone else in need. And then when that family member or friend is ready for their transplant, they can use their voucher to move forward with their living donation. Next slide. There's also remote donation, which is pretty cool. So if your intended donor lives far from the recipient and they would like to, do the donation and the recovery closer to home, then they can get evaluated at a NKR center near them. And then you will be able to receive your kidney near where you live at another NKR center. So both of you don't have to travel. You can just stay in the comfort of your own homes and recover in place. And then the last thing is complication protection. So complications related to donor surgeries are rare, but if there's any complications related to the surgery, then there is financial assistance available. It can cover the cost of lost wages, travel, and even dependent care reimbursement. Okay, next slide. And I think Jennifer's going to tell you a little bit more about this.
There are additional living donor financial resources if NILDAC and NKR are enough to assist you, because depending on your job, you might have to take off longer than 8 weeks because of what you do. So there's also the American Transplant Foundation where you could do fundraising, and then the American Living Organ Donor Network. And then one thing that's not listed on here is the Georgia Transplant Foundation. They can assist you with lodging as well, and they can cover bills if there's complications or if you don't qualify for lost wage assistance. So anyone who lives in Georgia can get that protection. And then if you live somewhere else and your recipient lives in Georgia, you still qualify for the Georgia Transplant Foundation. And then I think we're going to turn it back over to Stephanie.
Yeah, I know this has come up in the chat, but what to do when you find a potential donor. So really the best first step is putting the donor intake form link out there if you're looking to have donors at Mayo Clinic. They can also apply directly through the National Kidney Registry, which gives them an option to choose a transplant center that might be closer to them, like Jen mentioned, or Candace mentioned, one of the two fabulous ladies who just spoke. But if you have questions about logistics, we can answer questions. Just know we're not able to disclose any specific information about donors in process with recipients. And as we mentioned at the beginning, you can't call on behalf of a donor, but if you need us to get you this information, we can easily send it to you. If you go through evaluation or have been through evaluation at Mayo Clinic, it should have been sent to you at some point through the Mayo Patient Portal, but it's easy to resend it. And then we do have an email address that's available. So feel free to share all of this contact information with donors. We're always happy to answer any questions folks have, because donors may have the same misconceptions that some recipients have about age restrictions or medical conditions that might mean they're not eligible, because there's a lot of gray area in the world of living donor. So yeah, just refer everybody to us and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Specific resources about living donation, you can go to the Mayo Clinic website. There is this living donor toolkit link that I believe we'll share that has access specifically on living donations, a lot of frequently asked questions, and then some general stuff about like what's involved with the evaluation and the recovery time. So it's a great resource for information that's not even specific to Mayo Clinic, just about living donation. There is also through Mayo Clinic Connect support groups. This is really valuable for folks that are on the recipient side of things. I believe we have support groups for specific kidney diseases as well as transplant support groups. So that can be really helpful because we talked on the mental and emotional toll this can take. It is really important to remember that you're not alone. I see a lot of people kind of leaning on that in the chat, and that's really valuable. So do explore that as an option. And then this website that is the one we've referred to where folks can apply to be a living donor. I think that's it. And Julie, I think you take it from here, right?
I believe so. We've covered a lot today and some great stories, but our support does not end when the program ends. So I'll just take a few minutes to walk through a couple resources through the National Kidney Foundation of Florida. So if you have questions about kidney disease, transplantation, or living donation, you can contact NKF Cares. There are trained specialists there that can help you on what to do next, any additional information, or if you feel overwhelmed, there's support there. And they both have English and Spanish. Now, sometimes it can help to talk to someone who has been there, and so that is what this NKF Peers program is. It's one-on-one support from another kidney patient or a transplant recipient or caregiver and even living donors, and you can talk with them about different questions, and it's people there who really can understand some of your experience. Now, NKF also has communities that are online where you can connect with different people, living donors, other resources. And you can also remain anonymous, which is really good because it keeps you open to share whatever you would like. Now, your voice is what we use to create the change. And so I'm actually the advocate for the National Kidney Foundation of Florida, and the National Kidney Foundation has advocates as well, where you can talk about different things. You have the opportunity to talk about advocacy and just share some of your concerns through those programs. And also the Kidney Center, there's different resources, self-paced education courses that you can access at any time. They talk about things like transplant, finding a donor, becoming a living donor. The programs include experiences that are shared by recipients and other living donors, so check out those resources there. Now, the National Kidney Foundation of Florida has some financial assistance programs. We have Direct Aid, which provides emergency grants for those eligible up to $300 for needs such as gas, food, transportation, utilities, and even rent. And then we also have the Hawthorne Fund. And the Hawthorne Fund can provide up to $3,000 toward immunosuppressant medications. And the website, you're welcome to go there, which is kidneyfla.org. And that's going to provide more information about the eligibility or applying for the programs. Something else that we offer is monthly virtual education support groups. Our support group meets twice a month. We also have a pediatric support group that meets, so it's open for those with both adults and with children. And so we are really looking to enhance these support groups. Both are a great place to connect with other people who understand. You can also become involved in the National Kidney Foundation of Florida through different walks in Jacksonville. We welcome patients, families, healthcare teams, and anyone from the community to be a part of raising this awareness, especially for those that are affected with kidney disease. And so we just invite you to check out the website at kidneyfl.org so you can find out more information about the walks. This brings us back to the 7 strategies that we've been covering today. So you know the facts and the myths, and to create your story and to build a network of advocates. Also to use the resources that are available to you. Be sure to look at your action plan and choose one step and start there. I really do thank you all for being with us, and we're going to open it up for questions for our guests and speakers and anyone else on the call.
Julie, I know we've had several folks that haven't been able to find the packet. Is that something we can send out to everyone who registered just as a second blast?
Yeah, I will reach out to Savannah and see how we can make that happen.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Are there any additional questions from the audience?
I just wanted to bring up, if I have 1 second, that this Gina Marie, everyone, when I did the voucher program, I was able to, so sorry, I have my making peanut butter and jelly for the grandkid right now. I was able to list 5 people, Sydney as the top, but should something have happened to Sydney and she could not receive a kidney, my niece Blair, who has been on dialysis for 6 years now, she was next. My neighbor Dwayne was next. And then I put Sydney's triplet or twin on there just in case. And my son, my youngest son, on there just in case. Don't lose that opportunity if you do the voucher, because you don't know what's ahead of you or ahead of your loved one. So that was just something I wanted to throw in and I forgot. So forgive me. Sorry.
Now that's a wonderful, endorsement for the voucher program, and something that I think is important for everybody that's considering participating to know. I think the one other thing, and Stephanie mentioned this in the chat, but with the voucher program and in terms of caregivers, sometimes I hear from patients that, I don't know if I have a caregiver, or my caregiver also wants to be a donor. I think it's really a neat opportunity that, as Gina Marie told us, Sydney was really her caregiver. Sydney was there holding her hands and taking care of her while she was in the hospital. Gina Marie recovered and was able to do the same for her daughter. And so for spouses, parents, and children, those sorts of things, it's an incredible opportunity to serve in that dual role also, if you are interested in the voucher program. All right. There's a question about the pediatric support group open to residents outside of Florida. That's through the NKF of Florida, and I will let Julie answer that question for us. I think the answer is yes, but I'll let her answer that one.
Let me see if I can see the question. We do meet with the pediatric group. It's a quarterly group. You can find information for the exact date on the website, and I actually... that website address again, and I can put it in the chat. It's going to meet on September the 10th at 6:30 p.m. And I'll put the web address inside where you can find out more information on that. You can also check out we usually post different things on our social media page, which is Hey Kidney or Kidney FL. Kidney FL.
Thank you all for joining us this evening, and we will be sure to get that packet sent out to you, and we look forward to an opportunity to meet many of you very soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. I love you all so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.